My name is Morgan Andersen, and my stage name is Angelica DeVille. I really have a terrible story. The story is I don't have one. I think it was one part, I wanted a name that was witty. So it's definitely a play on angel and devil. It's part of my stage aesthetic and character of being sort of bitchy, but also really sweet about it. And then I think it has a little bit to do with like the Rugrats TV show, and I just thought Angelica Pickles was awful, and it was Angelica Pickles Devil, which I thought was hilarious. So I think it was a mixture of those three things together. I am a male, born male. I would assume that I identify as gay. I assume that I identify not hetero, but homosexual. But I don't necessarily consider myself that. I think that the idea of gender is a little bit broader than just having a label, and I'm not really big on labels. But to the vast majority of people, they would probably say that I'm gay. And I go with it because it's easy. That's hard because it's really a mix of a lot of different things. It's kind of a loaded question. I would say that the majority of people are like me, they consider themselves gay. Most drag queens would consider themselves to be gay. I don't see a lot of heterosexual guys dressing up as women for money on the weekends for fun. I don't really see that as a job that most guys are going to pick. But then there's also like blurred lines where people who are in transition with their gender, or they are going into the gender that they feel they really are, but maybe weren't born that way. A lot of drag queens start out as a gay man, maybe not realizing that they actually feel more like an actual woman. So drag is a real transition place for them to be able to dress and act and look like they would feel on the inside, ultimately to realize that they actually are like, no, I actually consider myself a woman. But I think in general, most drag performers probably consider themselves to be gay. So this started probably almost 8 or 9 years ago. I was working for a bar in Pasadena, California, and I was hosting karaoke there twice a week. And a friend of mine hosted karaoke on Sunday nights in drag, and it was Cabaret Sunday karaoke. Miss Roxy hosted it, and we did an event every year where we did the LA AIDS Walk. The bar staff would get together, we would raise lots of money, whatever we could, and we would do the walk. So one year, John, when he's not Roxy, John was like, I want to do something bigger. I want to do something more than just what we normally do. And I was like, well, what are you thinking? And he said that he wanted to do like a big benefit, like fundraiser. Auctions, raffles, silent auctions, food, all sorts of stuff. And he's like, and I want to do a show. I'm like, cool, what kind of show? And he's like, people singing and dancing and like a big event. And he goes, I want you to be involved. I'm like, all right, cool. I've been singing and playing the piano and guitar since as long as I can remember. So I was like, do you want me to like help MC? Do you want me to sing? Do you want me to play something? Like, what do you want me to do? And he goes, well, I think it would be fun if we dressed in drag and we did the show. I said no. I was not about to do that. That basically put me into a place where I started performing, but only in very special events, usually free events, fundraiser events, just to have a character, in a sense, there. That event, we raised $5,000 in 2 nights, doing a show and silent auctions and stuff, and it kind of gave me this idea and this concept that, like, even though it wasn't just me, but even just the idea of being in a character and drag has more power than what it actually looks like, because you go to a show and you're like, oh, they're just dudes in dresses and they're making dollars, and that's what a lot of it looks like. But some of the most famous drag queens that I've met actually do a lot for the community. They do a lot for homeless teens, and they do a lot of things for battered women. They do a lot of things for people with HIV and incurable diseases, and they head and do all of this stuff where they're the ones who sort of are the face to an event, which kind of, I'm a Leo and a performer, been on stage since I was really little, so it's like I hate hey, the spotlight, don't look at the camera, like, I love that. And so it kind of gave me the ability to create a character and do more than just be an attendee at an event. So my family doesn't know. It's kind of like the whole like coming out thing. I never came out. This is just who I am, which is why I like the gender identity and like the sexual identity and whatnot. I hate terms. I just think terms are silly. I don't think you choose who you fall in love with. I also don't think you choose who you are. And so I never really had this like great coming out story, just like I never really had a great like drag queen coming out story. My parents don't know, and my family doesn't know, and if they do, they might have seen me stomping out of my apartment in heels down the driveway in the past, and they just never said anything. That's totally cool too. My friends, I think some of my friends were really supportive, because we would all go to the bars and do things anyways, and we'd go to drag shows all the time. I also had friends that were like, oh my god, are you going to be a tranny now? And I was like, don't say tranny, like, that's the worst word ever. But like, no. And literally I remember having lunch with him, and he was like, I just don't understand. He's like, so do you want to be a woman? And I was like, I'm a dude who also happens to really like my penis. I'm not planning on losing that anytime soon. It's a character. I used to be in a lot of theater and a lot of stage, a lot of musical theater. Had surgery on my throat. It really messed up my singing voice. I can still sing, but it's not the same as it was. So this is a different avenue that I'm never going to be the lead in a musical on stage. But this gives me a moment to like still perform, still get out there, still sing if I choose to. So some were super supportive, some were less supportive. But then over time, they were very supportive as well. They were just like, oh, like, so it's still you. I'm like, how is this still a question? And what's crazy, it wasn't even like my straight friends. It was my gay friends that were like, you're going to do what? Whereas a lot of my straight friends were like, that's awesome. We're going to go to every show. So I don't know. It was a really weird mixed sort of thing that happened. I don't know. It's weird. I think that's one of the main misconceptions, is that a lot of people think that if you dress in women's clothing, that you're naturally a cross-dresser or a transvestite. Or that you are transitioning from male to female, or even female to male, depending on what you're doing. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. I think sometimes that does happen. I think that there are people who do cross-dress, and that's totally great for them because they feel the most comfortable that way. But I also think that a lot of it is sometimes you just want to embody both the sexes too. I feel like a lot of gay men who do drag really enjoy drag because they feel too fabulous to just be in a male body and wear male clothes, but they don't feel like they can just wear like pretty things all the time. I like pretty shit. Like, I like it. I want to wear it. I get real angry when I see the award ceremonies and I'm like, all these women in these beautiful fucking gowns. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. But all the guys are in these really dapper like suits and tuxes, which I totally dig too. I like both, but it's like, why is it only one or the other? I think another misconception is that all drag queens are really bitchy and mean. It comes off that way oftentimes, and I know that I went through a phase where you're trying to make a name for yourself, and so you assert yourself in a certain way, you hold yourself a certain way, which can come off almost rude or mean. And I had a really good friend of mine back at home who was like, you're being a real asshole. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh crap, I'm sorry. Like, I had no idea. And I think that you have to learn, in a sense, like what your character is and like what your persona is. Not all queens are mean people. I think in general, like I said before, a lot of queens do a lot of really amazing things. I think another main misconception is that drag has to look a certain way. You need to look like a woman. You know, a lot of it is like, oh, you're embodying the female, so you need to be an illusionist. You need to look like Britney Spears, or you need to look like Cher, or you need to be able to look like somebody. And some of my favorite drag queens are bearded drag queens, people who are, who use the term gender fucking as an aesthetic, and they don't want to be just androgynous, but they want to push the limits, and that's an actual term. Is they really push the limits of what gender looks like, and so it's usually a lot of glitter and a lot of hair, and that's cool. So there's a lot of misconceptions in the drag world, and what the perception is from even within the own gay community. I think the main thing that I would want people to know about the drag community is truly at the end of the day, we're here for everyone else. I think that that's something that kind of gets lost in translation sometimes, is that, oh, they're there to make $1. And yeah, we get paid to do what we do, and we take tips from people who tip us. And you'll ask them, how many of y'all have been to a strip show? And they're like, me! We're like, how many have been to a drag show? And they're like, And we're like, we run on the same thing as strippers, your dollars, And so it's like people get this conception that, or perception rather, that we're they're just there for the money. And yes, it is a job. For most drag queens, at the end of the day, it's a job. But really, at the end of the day, what we are mostly there for is to provide a place for people to come and just have a good time. And that we really are trying to portray an art form. We would want to be respected for that art form, and in turn, give respect to the people who are there.